Pakistan cricket at its best. 1 minute down, next minute up.
Thanks very much, everybody, for joining me once again. Sad Sadek here, bringing you another exclusive interview. Delighted to be joined by a dear friend of PakPassion, somebody who has contributed to the website for many years, done some wonderful interviews, and we always get very good feedback from the audience regarding his interviews. He's a journalist, well known all around the world. I call him the voice of the Caribbean cricket, and I think many echo those sentiments. He's worked on television commentary, radio commentary, for the BBC and many other outlets all around the world. Great to be joined once again by Fazeer Mohammed. Fazeer, hope you're well.
I'm very well, Saja. Good to be with you once again.
Fazeer, let's start with the West Indies. It was so near yet so far for them at the T20 World Cup, wasn't it?
It was, and it's interesting that how we look at this performance, because for many people, even those who support West Indies who are not West Indian, and there's a huge audience around the world who have a tremendous admiration for West Indies cricket. It feels good to see the way the West Indies perform, but in reality, Saj, it was almost exactly the same way the West Indies performed 2 years ago in the Caribbean with the 2024 World Cup, because then the West Indies won all 4 group matches. Then they went into the Super 8s, lost 2 key fixtures, and including a tense final match. Then it was against South Africa. This time it was against India. So basically, for the 4th consecutive T20 World Cup, since winning the title in 2016, the West Indies have failed to make the semi-finals. But even here in the Caribbean, there seems to be an encouraging feeling about the way the West Indies performed in this tournament compared to 2 years ago here in the Caribbean.
Looking at it from my side, Fazeer, and having watched a number of the West Indies matches during the tournament, it just felt as if at key moments, when the pressure was really on, 1 or 2 errors just crept in.
And that's always the key point when we talk about West Indies cricket. My issue with West Indies cricket is the failure to be consistently excellent. And when you really think about it, if you want to be a world beater, if you want to be among the best in the world, in any discipline, in any sport, whatever it might be, you really have to achieve those 2 things in tandem: consistency and excellence. It's all well and good to have brilliant bits and moments, but it's really in crunch time, in those pressure situations, when you stand up to the challenge, that you're more than likely to get over the line. And I think that continues to be a concern for the West Indies, whether we talk white ball format, whether we talk red ball format. And as you said, Sarge, it was evident again in this tournament, for as much excitement as the West Indies generated. I think the fact that they made the Super 8 but couldn't make the top 4 is a reflection of that failure to win those critical moments.
Players, or many of them, play in tournaments such as the IPL, the Pakistan Super League, and many other T20 franchise leagues around the world in front of packed audiences, packed crowds. So pressure shouldn't really be a problem, shouldn't be an issue. But I guess when you're playing for the West Indies, there's a little bit more pressure. Fazeer, is that fair enough?
I think so. And I think we're all aware of this, Sarge. And I think that's why the website is called PakPassion. It's not called PSL Passion. It's PakPassion. It's that passion for your country. I mean, we in the Caribbean are in a unique situation because we are all individual territories, which is one of the unique elements of Caribbean cricket. We all represent all individual territories in other sports, but when it comes to cricket, we are the West Indies. And therefore, when you go out on the field, and yes, you're right, it might be the same sort of audience that you might see in IPL and different tournaments, but it's when you're wearing the colors of your region, when you know it's about a global tournament, when you have that sense that, look, it's on the line. This match against India, as it was on Sunday, everything is at stake. The eyes of the cricketing world are on us, not just because it's a domestic tournament or a regional event or a franchise tournament, but this is the big one. This is a global event. It's World Cup. It's like World Cup football that everyone is counting down towards in June, July. So it means a whole lot. And therefore, it's a different sort of pressure. It's a different level of expectation from the global audience and certainly from the players themselves.
You mentioned the India match, Fazeer. It was almost there for the taking, wasn't it? But then, I mean, you necessarily can't just blame the umpiring decisions, but there were one or two controversies in that match. I know some former Pakistan players identified one or two decisions that could have gone West Indies' way, but didn't.
Yeah, and we could always go down that road. We could always say, well, what is going on here? Is it because, again, in India controls the global game and the BCI carries so much weight and all of these elements? And yes, it will raise questions. Even the issue about the West Indies being penalized in the final over of the match by going over their time, even though India seemed to go a similar length of time when they bowled. So all of these elements will create what we would like to call a conspiracy theory in many ways. But I think at the end of it all, if we're honest with ourselves, the feeling would have been that the West Indies should have gotten more than they eventually did. It should have really pushed India a lot harder. And indeed, in the field, in defense of that 195, if they had really taken their chances when they came their way, if they had bowled properly, they might have actually given themselves a chance of winning. So yes, there would be those issues, but I'll be honest and say that is not really much of a discussion here in the Caribbean. That there's something going on behind the scenes that is working in favor of India or anything like that. I think people are more looking at the fact that the West Indies played well, but just weren't able to go over the line for myriad reasons which have to do with cricket on the field.
I guess the West Indies aren't going to be fined by the cricket board for not making the semi-finals, Fazeer?
No, they won't, and that's why it's really bewildering to me to see, and that's why even before we came on air, I asked you if this was real, that the Pakistan Cricket Board are going to fine their players, first of all for the match against India, and then for not making the semi-finals. I mean, come on, this is madness. What message are you sending to young players in Pakistan who might be saying, I want to represent my country, I love my country, I want to play for my country, but if I don't do well, am I going to be penalized? If I'm playing for the under-19 team and we don't make it all the way to a certain stage and so on, am I going to be fined? What is this? What is the intention? This is some sort of Stone Age mentality that you punish people for not doing well in a sporting competition. It reeks of vengeance and a vendetta. Are you suggesting that the players themselves were deficient or were somehow deliberate in their wanting to lose to India or wanting to not qualify for the semi-finals? Surely the thinking process has to be so very wrong in believing that it's okay to penalize players for their failure to reach the standard that you have set. Have you put things in place? Have you done all that would be required to bring out the best in these players in a global tournament? Because this isn't the first time that it's happened. Like the West Indies, it's the fourth consecutive time that Pakistan have failed to make it to the semi-finals. In fact, the last time around, they didn't even get past the first round. So I just find it to be a Stone Age mentality, really.
What did you make of the Pakistan performance during the tournament, Fazeer?
Pakistan always frustrates me. The only team that frustrates me more than Pakistan is West Indies. Because again, you see the ability, you see the talent, but there's that lack of consistency, that lack of cohesion. And I can understand, while so many tens and more than 100 million in Pakistan will not just be bitterly disappointed, but will be angry with their team. Look at what has happened with Sri Lanka. They were knocked out as well. And Sanath Jayasuriya is to step down as coach. And he's apologized. And he says he understands why people are so angry in Sri Lanka. But again, you have to look at the why. It's all well and good to be angry, but was it a case of the players not stepping up to the challenge? Did they not follow instructions? Were they almost at odds with each other on the field or off the field? What is going on behind the scenes? And I think this is where it can actually be something positive for Pakistan cricket, rather than be preoccupied with retribution, to be seen to the wider Pakistan audience as taking action. Shouldn't you take action by having a proper sit down and an honest assessment of where Pakistan cricket is? Because There's so much talent. You can see it everywhere. You can see it every element of Pakistan cricket, that there's so much ability. And the question is, why is that not coming to the fore at a consistent basis? And that's why, as I said, the only team that frustrates me more than Pakistan is West Indies.
The tournament, there's been some criticism, Fazeer, regarding the ICC. And one aspect was the Super 8s, how it was preceded. And the four group winners ended up being in the same group, and the four runners-up ended up being in the same group as well. What did you make of that preceding, and also the fact that, as in the Football World Cup, the final group matches are played simultaneously, but obviously in the cricket tournaments, ICC cricket tournaments, that rarely happens.
Yeah, and I think the seeding thing has come to light because of what happened with the Super 8, where you've got four group winners. But keep in mind that this has been going on for quite some time. I recall the 2007 World Cup here in the Caribbean. We were told that once the West Indies finish in the top two in their preliminary group, it doesn't matter whether they finish first or second. They've already been allotted a certain position. And if they fail to make it, the team that replaces them will take that allotted position. So they've been doing this for a long time. It's just that it's come to light now as a talking point because you have the ridiculous situation of four group winners all in the same group. And again, we fail to recognize that the ICC isn't so much a global sporting body, but an events management company and a revenue earning organization. That's all they're really interested in. Because if they were interested in sport and cricket from a sporting point of view, this would never be allowed to happen. Could you imagine the outrage if the FIFA World Cup, you had a situation in the next round where a group winner plays a group winner? People would ask, what nonsense is this? But again, it's allowed to happen. It's allowed to go on because no one really takes notice. All they're interested in is the revenues. Certainly the various boards, the various cricket boards around the world never say anything about these things because they're just waiting for the slice of the global pie from a global tournament, and they don't want to speak out of turn to jeopardize that. But surely it goes against the very spirit of a sporting competition that you have teams that are playing. You're basically judging on preceding, as you said correctly. But shouldn't it matter your form at the time? Shouldn't it matter, well, okay, this might be the number one seed, but the number four seed has won all their games. Why should we almost penalize them for playing so well? But again, we accept these things. I don't hear any great outcry, certainly not from the Pakistan audience, about Pakistan and India always being drawn in the same group every time. That's a fix. In other parts of the world, they will say, well, this is rigged. How could you have a so-called sporting competition where there's supposedly a draw for places and groups and so on, and Pakistan and India are always in the same group? And then again, people get very apologetic and people don't want to offend anybody. People stay quiet about it because they don't want to lose out on whatever benefits they enjoy from cricket. But it goes against the very spirit of sport to have a fix like that. And therefore, people say, well, no, so the revenue is the biggest revenue earning game of all cricket. Well, so basically you're saying that global revenue is more important than sporting integrity. And if people are happy with that, well, take it.
And finally, Fazeer, we spoke prior to the T20 World Cup about Darren Sammy's future, and I think you mentioned that the knives were being sharpened for him ahead of the tournament. Do you think he's done enough to remain in the job?
I think he has. I don't get the sense that there was any great desire at the Cricket West Indies level to get rid of him anyway, even if the West Indies, say, for example, had failed to go past the group stage, because I think Darren Sammy is a favorite of the Cricket West Indies administration. And indeed, in many ways, that is part of the Caribbean, what we call insularity or interterritorial rivalry. Darren Sammy is from the island of St. Lucia, which is part of the Windward Islands. The president of Cricket West Indies, Dr. Kishore Shaloo, is from St. Vincent, which is also part of the Windward Islands. And you always hear those comments, well, he's a golden boy of the Cricket West Indies administration because he's from the same part of the Caribbean as the Cricket West Indies president. But even with that, I think the way the West Indies performed, the way they showed themselves to be competitive in most of their matches, and in fact taking India down to the final over, would have left a feeling that, look, here is something to work with, here is something to move forward with. What I would say, though, is that we've seen this before. We've seen bits of encouraging performances only for the West Indies to fall flat the next time around. But you're right. I think based on the performances that we've seen, I think if there was a growing desire to get rid of Darren Sammy, even from the wider Caribbean cricketing audience, that is dissipated somewhat, at least until the next tournament.
Well, Fazeer, we didn't get the West Indies-Pakistan final that we hoped for, but I think overall it's been a fairly entertaining tournament. So once again, really appreciate your time, and I'm sure we'll catch up in future.
You take care, Saj.